The Russia-Ukraine war is intensifying by the hour as Moscow launches a relentless wave of bombardment, causing widespread destruction across Ukrainian territories. Russia claims it has knocked out one of Ukraine's most prized Western-supplied weapons, the US-made Patriot air defense system. According to Military Watch magazine, citing Russia's defense ministry, a Russian Su-35 fighter jet destroyed components of a Ukrainian Mi-104 Patriot long-range air defense system. The report claims the Su-35 launched a Kh-31PM anti-radiation missile from a distance of around 125 kilometers, successfully striking the Patriot system. The Kh-31PM is among Russia's most advanced anti-radiation missiles. It has a minimum engagement range of 55 kilometers and a maximum range approaching 300 kilometers. The missile is a major evolution of the Soviet-era Kh-31P, combining extremely high speed with a significantly improved seeker and propulsion system. Unlike its predecessor, which required different seeker modules depending on the target radar, the Kh-31PM is equipped with a multi-band L-130 passive seeker, allowing it to detect a much wider range of enemy radar emissions. One of the missile's defining features is its unique propulsion system. It first accelerates using a solid fuel rocket booster. Once the booster separates, a ramjet engine takes over, propelling the missile to speeds of Mach 4 or higher. That blistering speed dramatically reduces reaction time for air defense crews and makes interception far more difficult. Russian Su-35 fighters have been seen carrying Kh-31PM missiles since the early stages of the war in 2022. Russian pilots have described a tactic in which the missile's passive seeker is activated before entering the threat zone. Once it detects the enemy's fire control radar, the missile can launch automatically. Because the Kh-31PM homes in on radar emissions, rather than using its own radar, the launching aircraft can remain harder to detect while engaging enemy air defense systems. The baseline Kh-31P weighs roughly 586 to 600 kilograms and carries an 87 to 89 kilogram high explosive fragmentation warhead, giving it greater destructive power than most anti-radiation missiles. Its heavier warhead increases the likelihood of destroying multiple components of an air defense battery, while also posing a greater threat to personnel operating the system. Despite its weight, the missile can be carried by heavy Russian fighters, such as the Su-35, without significantly affecting their performance. However, Ukraine has not responded to Russia's claim that a US-made Patriot system was destroyed. The reported strike comes as Ukraine faces an increasingly severe shortage of Patriot interceptors amid relentless Russian missile and drone attacks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly appealed to Ukraine's partners for additional Patriot systems, saying Kyiv is even prepared to purchase the interceptors. He has said Ukraine will require up to 360 Patriot missiles to protect its skies this winter. On August 23rd, Zelensky announced that Germany had agreed to supply 600 PAK-2 interceptor missiles for Ukraine's Patriot air defense systems during 2027 and 2028. The Ukrainian president, however, stressed that Kyiv still needs significantly more interceptors to defend against Russia's ballistic missile attacks. Zelensky also revealed that Kyiv is seeking access to US missile stockpiles. He said Ukraine hopes to acquire even a small portion, between 5 and 10%, of America's Patriot inventory, and is willing to pay for those deliveries. According to reports, Ukraine received 675 Patriot missiles in 2023, 364 in 2025, while 264 PAK-2 and PAC-3 missiles are currently scheduled for delivery in 2026. The air defense interceptor crisis intensified after U.S. President Donald Trump rejected Zelensky's request for hundreds of additional Patriot interceptor missiles, citing America's own military requirements in the Middle East. Trump also stepped back from an earlier indication that he might allow Ukraine to produce Patriot missiles under license.
A Russian Su-35 has been filmed launching one of Moscow's fastest radar-hunting missiles, reportedly against the electronic heart of a Ukrainian Patriot air defense battery. Russian sources say the Kh-31PM anti-radiation missile was released from approximately 125 kilometers away, allowing the fighter to attack without flying directly into the Patriot's most dangerous engagement zone. The claimed target was reportedly part of an American-made MIM-104 Patriot system. Unlike a conventional missile aimed at fixed coordinates, the Kh-31PM is designed to detect electromagnetic radiation and home in on the radar producing it. In simple terms, the Patriot must radiate to search for targets, but every time its radar switches on, it can also reveal itself to the weapon hunting it. That creates a deadly contest. The Patriot crew must keep its radar active long enough to detect Russian aircraft and incoming missiles. The Su-35 crew, meanwhile, attempts to identify those emissions and launch before the Ukrainian battery can relocate, shut down, or fire back. Russian accounts say the Kh-31PM's passive seeker can be activated before the aircraft enters the threat area. Once it detects the relevant radar emission, the weapon can reportedly be launched against the source. Because the missile itself does not need to transmit a radar signal while searching for the target, the defending battery may receive little warning beyond detecting the launch aircraft or the missile already approaching. Open-source estimates place later Kh-31 variants at roughly Mach 3 to Mach 4, depending on altitude and flight profile. At that speed, a missile launched from 125 kilometers away could leave the target crew only a short window to react. The report claims the Kh-31PM has a minimum engagement distance of around 55 kilometers and can approach 300 kilometers under favorable launch conditions. Public estimates vary, and the precise performance of the latest variant remains uncertain. Russia has more frequently used Iskander-M ballistic missiles and reconnaissance drones against Ukrainian air defense positions. Those attacks often rely on locating a battery first and then striking its coordinates from the ground. The Kh-31PM represents a different threat, an airborne weapon capable of exploiting the radar's own emissions, compressing the time between detection and attack. Moscow is now using fighters such as the Su-35, combined with long-range missiles, electronic warfare, and reconnaissance drones to perform parts of that mission. The stakes extend far beyond a single alleged launch. Ukraine depends heavily on a limited number of Patriot systems to defend major cities, military installations, and strategic infrastructure from Russian ballistic missiles. Every time a battery is forced to shut down, relocate, or withdraw for repairs, another section of Ukrainian airspace becomes more exposed.
Russia may be getting more than just North Korean soldiers. It may be getting an entirely new drone force. Ukraine claims a fresh wave of North Korean troops in Russia includes around 400 drone operators, raising fears that North Korean drones could soon be used to survey and strike targets inside Ukraine. According to Ukrainian military intelligence, around 8,500 North Korean troops are currently in Russia, mainly deployed in the Kursk region, but their role goes beyond frontline combat. The contingent reportedly includes roughly 1,000 engineers and deminers, along with hundreds of personnel trained to operate drones. And this matters because Russia is increasingly relying on drones to locate Ukrainian positions, overwhelm air defenses, and strike targets deep behind the front. The North Korean personnel are reportedly not expected to cross into Ukraine themselves. Instead, they could reinforce Russian positions in the rear, allowing Russian troops to move toward the front. Their drone units could also provide reconnaissance and potentially conduct attacks without North Korean soldiers directly entering Ukrainian territory. This would represent a major escalation in the military partnership between Moscow and Pyongyang. North Korea has already been supporting Russia's war effort since late 2024, after the two countries signed a mutual defense pact. Ukrainian intelligence estimates that around 25,000 North Korean troops have been deployed or rotated through Russia so far, and Kiev says the number could rise dramatically. Ukrainian intelligence believes Russian President Vladimir Putin could ask Kim Jong-un for as many as 50,000 additional troops when the two leaders are expected to meet in September. North Korea, however, is pushing back on that claim. Kim Yo-jong, Kim Jong-un's powerful sister, dismissed reports of tens of thousands of additional troops as a groundless, self-fabricated scenario. Still, the bigger story is what Moscow and Pyongyang are learning from each other. North Korean troops deployed to Russia have already gained battlefield experience. Some reportedly suffered heavy casualties during attacks in the Kursk region, using mass infantry assaults against Ukrainian positions. Now, that experience could be combined with something increasingly important in modern warfare: drones. And Ukraine is facing this development while already struggling with shortages of air defense systems. So the concern in Kiev isn't simply that North Korea could send Russia more soldiers, it's that North Korea could be helping Russia build another layer of its battlefield drone capability while freeing Russian troops for the offensive. If that happens, the Russia-North Korea military partnership could move from manpower support to something much more sophisticated: a combined system of soldiers, engineers, drone operators, and battlefield experience. And that could make the next phase of the Ukraine war even harder to predict.